of visitors from another planet would give a lot of folks the willies.
Yeah, one man says it's been happening and that the government, specifically NASA, knows about it. J.R. Barry has the story.
It's a question man has been asking for centuries. Are we alone? And could there really be life out there somewhere? For some, the answer is easy. NASA, they say, knows that alien life exists and that we're being visited on a regular basis.
Maybe the powers to be are setting us up for disclosure and making it more subtle so that it isn't a big jolt to us.
Clifford Cliff is the worldwide director of MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. They have some 1,000 investigators. One of their latest investigations has to do with this video from January 28th of this year. A mysterious light is seen descending from the sky in Jerusalem. Multiple videos have surfaced of the supposed event. They all show the light hovering above the Dome of the Rock. After a few seconds, there appears to be some sort of energy burst. And then the light zooms away. So, is this proof positive that aliens exist, or is it nothing more than an elaborate hoax? MUFON believes NASA knows for sure.
They do have a significant amount of information about the UFO phenomenon and ETs that they have not disclosed that are still there. Some of the astronauts have come forward now and are indicating that they have seen and witnessed things that were beyond their explanation.
Last October, during a satellite interview with NASA Director Charlie Bolden, I asked the former astronaut if he had ever seen anything in space.
JR, I must admit, everybody that goes to space wants to see an alien. Or wants to see some evidence that there is other life in our universe, and I'm no different, but I am here to report that I saw no evidence, although deep in my heart I believe that there is good potential for other life in our universe.
There is no doubt we are being visited.
However, one of Bolden's colleagues says otherwise. Dr. Edgar Mitchell was the sixth man to walk on the moon. He came forward years ago claiming to have proof that alien life is out there.
The universe that we live in is much more wondrous, exciting, complex, and far-reaching than we were ever able to know up to this point in time. And the fact we have wondered, were we alone in the universe forever? Only in our period do we really have evidence, no, we're not alone.
So what's going on here? Why the different stories from two credible NASA sources? Last month, I had the chance to catch up with the NASA director again, this time in person, and I asked him about Ed Mitchell's stunning comments.
Ed Mitchell is a big believer in extraterrestrials. And as you and I talked about before, I am one who, because of my faith, I believe that there is very likely other life somewhere else in the universe. I just don't have any evidence to back that up. But Edgar is one who, contrary to my observations, actually claims to have evidence that extraterrestrials exist.
Well, even the Vatican is...
None. Paul Chodas is a scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. He and his boss, Don Yeomans, have been trying to track near-Earth objects for decades.
We didn't see it coming. It was coming from the general direction of the sun, so it was in the daytime sky as it approached.
So how did you find out about it?
Twitter and YouTube, when we first saw the images.
So the first people at NASA heard about it was Twitter?
Exactly.
The meteor that rocketed into Russia really got our attention a few weeks back. We learned today about the threat of such things to our modern world. In the meteor and asteroid tracking business, they call the big ones city killers. And while there was very little good news today about our chances of getting them before they get us, there was some talk about future remedies. Our report tonight from NBC's Stephanie Gosk.
Last month, the meteor rocketed into the atmosphere and exploded over Russia, frightening because the shockwave blew out windows and injured 1,200 people.
It came out of the sun. It came from a direction where our telescopes could not look.
Today at a hearing on Capitol Hill, leading space scientists told lawmakers the U.S. is not prepared to defend itself against meteors of the same size.
If you detected even a small one, like the one that detonated in Russia, headed for New York City in 3 weeks, what would we do?
The answer to you is if it's coming in 3 weeks, pray.
Scientists say they have identified all asteroids large enough to wipe out the planet, like the one suspected of killing off the dinosaurs, and there is no immediate risk. The concern is meteors that are smaller, but still big enough to take out a city.
The number of undetected potential city killers is very large. It's in the range of 10,000 or more.
The probability of impact is low, they say, but at present funding levels, NASA believes it will take almost 20 years to identify them all. What would help is an infrared telescope. The government won't pay for one, but a former astronaut is looking to build the first ever privately funded deep space telescope. NASA is collaborating on the project, but the space agency says it still needs more money to identify and develop ways to protect the planet.
A good segment of the population thinks it's just a matter called Bruce Willison, and notwithstanding we don't have a shuttle anymore.
Press it!
Hollywood's version is definitely a bit dramatic, but scientists say there is reason to be concerned. The meteor in Russia was like a shot across the bow. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News.
CBS News contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at City University of New York. Welcome.
Glad to be on.
What do we expect to come out of these hearings?
Well, everything's on the table. Intercepting an asteroid, blowing it up, deflecting it. It's going to be like Buck Rogers meets the United States Congress. Now, it's a no-brainer that what they need first is an early warning system, a space telescope that can detect an asteroid from a distance, because it would only cost a few $100 million. That's chump change compared to like a stealth bomber. And realize the threat is real. You know, in Russia, if that asteroid had held intact for a few more seconds, it would have hit the ground with the force of 20 Hiroshima bombs. Casualties would have been...
The two events of Friday, February 15th, the harmless flyby of asteroid 2012 DA-14 and the not-so-harmless impact of a meteor in Russia are a stark reminder of the need to invest in space science.
Reading from Dr. Holdren's testimony, says, quote, depending on its composition and velocity, an asteroid of 140 meters in diameter could have an impact energy in the range of 50 to 500 megatons of TNT equivalent and would be capable of causing destruction over a large region. Describe with greater detail what you mean by a, quote, large region, end quote.
The size you're talking about, 140 meters, and you've got the numbers exactly right, could devastate the better part of a continent. The only fortunate thing is that the estimated frequency with which objects of that size strike the Earth is about 1 in 20,000 years.
The one that hit Russia, there's no question about that, and that's about all we know about it. Why didn't we know that was coming? It was in the air or on its way.
It came out of the sun, Congressman Hall. It came from a direction where our telescopes could not look. We cannot look into the sun.
Well, we can't make that determination as to where it's going to come from. We ought to be able to do something no matter where it comes from if it's going to hit the Earth.
The most important single thing we could do to improve our capacity to see any asteroid of potentially damaging size coming would be an orbiting infrared telescope of the sort that the B612 Foundation.
No, thank you.
I'll show you what shoes to wear, how to fix your hair, everything that really counts to be popular. I know about popular.
It's popularity, bitch.
I know about popular.
Where this say that.
I know about popular.
Let me tell you about the popular plan. Kicking rocks, shooting blocks, just a run from the man. Like an ostrich with his head in the sand. Puffy making a band, Wu-Tang making a clan. Let me tell you about the popular man. Running streets with his peeps just to open a can. The major plan is to gain all the fans. Mass pollute the demand, perpetrating the land. Popularity begins like this. The clothes, the hair, and colorful lips. Would you believe the popularity used to be shit? It used to not matter how much flow you could spit. It used to not matter if your pants was ripped. It used to not matter how big is your click. All that really used to matter is that you're fully legit. But all that matters now is how big is your dick. It's popularity, bitch. Where it is, say that. Popularity. Does it even exist? Is life to end up on a list to get pissed? Decide not to take it no more and ball up your fist? I'd rather be kissed by osteoporosis than end up on a list of people permanently pissed. The train to all the riches I must have just missed. The paths I should have taken are gone with the mist. None of the shit matters. Popularity hits. They don't think about the mother in the ring with
We kind of wanted to clean this image up a little bit and not have the comment look funny. So
there's no hocus pocus here really, because of course the comment doesn't really look like what I'm showing right now. There's no hocus pocus here really, because of course the comment doesn't really look like what I'm showing right now, right? Because of course the comment doesn't really look like what I'm showing right now, right?
Think about the mother in the ring with their kids. They don't care about the kids laying dead with their friends, needing blood, a syringe, a gurney, gauze, and some meds, and a real good surgeon to remove all the lead. Now next you need a lawyer to help you defend. They're taking all your money, and then in the end, you're hoping that they let your broke ass join in. Join in. It's popularity, bitch. Say this, wear that. So to sum it all up, the popularity shit. They can all eat a dick, or pick up, swallow, and spit. So they know how to flash it to get under your skin. And I'ma show them how much I can do with a pin. I'ma show everyone just how they begin. I'ma keep pushing hits till they pulling me in, so I can roll in a Benz. Clown until I don't know which town that I'm in. Bitch, I can't wait for popularity's again. Live in the city of sin. Call me out, I'm gay. Say what, where, and when. I put you under a spin. Like fish, we're missing a fin. A dog caged in a pen. 10 man's heart in a bin. So haters keep on hating, cause my girl is a 10. Standing on the walls of something ready to end. Like popularity was even real to begin. Who thought I'd have to sell my soul to get right in? It's popularity, bitch.
Day.
The coal-sack planets are gone. 8 million settlers missing. The entire Aquilid system is gone too. Helion Prime shares its sunlight with all worlds nearby. If we fall, they fall. And after that, my God, how do I save my family? Have you heard anything I've said?
Said it's all circling the drain, the whole universe. Right?
That's right.
Had done sometime.
Sorry, this just doesn't make sense. The comet made a turn.
Turn?
Yeah, look, it just completely shifted its orbit.
Give me Rover 2 on screen 1. Rotate all cameras 90 degrees positive.
first Earthlings to see the effects will be in Newfoundland. Or Newfoundland.
Hey, where have you been? You're gonna miss everything. It's the store.
Oh, kids. I'll never marry another man with kids.
In 1910, Halley's Comet returned. Everybody thought they were going to die then.
What's that?
Look!
Very real secret. This is a story of money, murder, and mystery right here in the Valley.
I have tried to pretend that everything is okay, but everything is not okay.
We will make a lot of money.
We are all living in the world they created.
Other organizations that shall remain nameless.
How far are you willing to go to change the world?
You must leave. If you do not disperse, you may be arrested and/or subject to other police action. Use of riot control agents and/or less lethal munitions.
How far are you willing to go to change the world?
You had better wake up and understand that there are people who are guiding your life and you don't even know it.
If you think about media and technology, they're delivering content that is shaping our society. They're shaping our politics, they're shaping our national discourse, and most of all, they're shaping our children's brains and lives and emotions.
We estimate there's somewhere north of 1 billion people who use the internet every single day. That's just a reach that hasn't existed before in terms of media.
our kids today live on Facebook and cell phones. The diversity of the platforms means that those images are impacting your kid 24/7, and whatever restrictions existed when we were growing up simply don't exist today.
Girls get the message from very early on that what's most important is how they look, that their value, their worth, depends on that.
I got a call one day from an attorney woman I knew, and she said, would you like to meet one of the Rockefellers? I said, sure, I'd love to. And we became friends, and he began to divulge a lot of things to me. So he said to me one night, he said that there's going to be an event there, and out of that event, you're going to see, we're going to go into Afghanistan, so we can run pipelines from the Caspian Sea. We're going to go into Iraq to take the oil and establish a base in the Middle East, and we're going to go into Venezuela and try and get rid of Chavez. And the first two they've accomplished. Chavez they didn't accomplish. And he said you're going to see guys going into caves looking for looking for people that they're never going to find. You know, he was laughing about the fact that you have this war on terror. There's no real enemy. He's talking about how by having this war on terror, you can never win it because so it's an eternal war, and so you can always keep taking people's liberties away. And I said, how are you going to convince people that this war is real? He said, but the media can convince everybody it's real. I mean, you know, it's just that you keep talking about things, you keep saying it over and over and over again, and eventually people believe it. You know, you created the Federal Reserve in 1913 through lies. You create 9/11, which is another lie. Through 9/11, you're fighting a war on terror, and now all of a sudden you go into Iraq, which was another lie, and now they're going to do Iran. You know, and it's all one thing leading to another, leading to another, leading to another. Now, I would say to them, what are you doing this for? What's the point of this thing? You have all the money in the world you ever want. You have all the power. I said, you know, you're hurting people. It's not a good thing. And he would say, what do you care about the people for? Take care of yourself and you take care of your family. And then I said to him, what are the ultimate goals here? He said, the ultimate goal is to get everybody in this world chipped with the RFID chip, and have all money be on those chips and everything on those chips. And if anybody wants to protest what we do or violate what we want, we just turn off their chip.
We have a Florida family who are really pioneers in a brave new world. They have volunteered to be the first ever to have microchip identification devices implanted into their body.
After 9/11, I was really concerned with the security of my family.
I wouldn't mind having something planted permanently in my arm that would identify me.
Most people still today think that all entertainment to do with movies, drama, is therefore nothing more than their entertainment. It never ever was that case.
Of course, television can't perform such miracles as this, yet. But perhaps there's no harm wishing that it could.
The greatest social messages are promoted through movies and drama, high drama, through the fixation of emotive sequences, emotional sequences, not logical, factual sequences, but pushing points across in an emotional way which register and fix in the mind. So emotional content is very, very important, rather than going through an actual discussion or an argument using logic and facts. There's no debate. And when you're being downloaded through fiction, your guard is down, the sensor part of your brain is not in action. It isn't saying, yes, I agree with this, I disagree with that, as you would in a debate or a lecture. You're actually in an alpha state, being completely downloaded with new ideas. About 100 years ago, this big organization with many branches, they wanted to rule the world basically using Britain as a nucleus of a system, an embryo, which also was going to be joined with the US under the Anglo-American establishment, wrote about the kind of culture and the changes of culture over a 100-year period that they would actually design, implement and bring in. And H.G. Wells talked about it too. He talked about arenas. He says arenas could be put up across the world for sports, for instance. Now at that time, sports was something that children, school children were into. Adults became adults and got onto adult things. So it was unimaginable at the time that people could actually believe that there was even a need for adult sports and entertainment, never mind having arenas built across the world. But he said, we can do this, and foist basically a sports culture for the males. Using a tribal system, we're all tribal to an extent. That's why we even bother to vote for a tribal leader. This is well understood. That's why we're supplied with these leaders. And because the average man was to become more disengaged from his own destiny as the expert class arose, it was decided that the males would get their outlet, basically, gradually becoming helpless as males through sports. Therefore, they'd have a tribal team they could identify with. They would cheer them on as they were winning. In their own personal lives, they were getting nowhere. They were getting disenfranchised, in a sense, as experts took over decision-making for them in all kinds of fields. So this was psychology at use, planned before they even implemented the sports. When radio came along, of course, they used that to the maximum. Sports for the men, soaps basically for the women. And then in came television, as I say, with its alpha state, its hypnotic state. And sure enough, around the 1960s, really, 50s and 60s, it took off. It really, really took off. And men became glued on Saturday nights to the sports shows. A culture industry, which is called by its own the culture industry. The Soviet Union had a department called the culture industry. Their actors and directors were called the cultural leaders, because they would, like a computer, people are like computers, all you have to do is keep giving them new updates every so often, and you can change an entire country or a nation or a block of nations who are all getting the same upgrades at the same time along certain paths. Today we call it political correctness. Most people want to belong to their peer group. They want to be the same as everyone else when it comes to opinions. In fact, they judge their own personal sanity by bouncing ideas off their neighbors and friends who will answer back and agree on these same topics in kind. It doesn't matter if the topics or what you're given are facts or utter nonsense, as long as everyone agrees at the same time. You'll say, well, I'm sane, and your friends will all agree because they've had the same information given to them. If it's on TV and a famous face says something, then it must be true. He doesn't have to show you facts or anything else. You've been brought up with these faces. That's why they keep these guys on television into their 70s and 80s. You've grown up with this father figure who's on television every night at 6 o'clock, in your house, in your room, staring right at you. And he's a father figure. Would he tell you a lie? So you naturally never suspect him. And this same man will lead you through new topics. He'll introduce experts on the topics. They'll have a little summary at the end of every talk, and you are now left with the conclusion that's presented to you. You don't arrive at it, it's given to you, and it's good enough for you. We're programmed today perfectly, just like machines. We tie this in with the Brzezinski. Brzezinski said in 2 Ages. Now this guy was way up with the NSA. He's a master geopolitician. He admits he works in 20, 50-year periods to do with geopolitics in other countries. But he said himself, the public will shortly be unable to think or reason for themselves. He was meaning by the form of information that was given to them, the type, the formulas that were in use then in the 1970s. He says, eventually they'll be unable to think or reason for themselves. And eventually, he said, they will expect the media to do all their thinking and reasoning for them. Well, that's happened today. That's why people today can't think outside of the programming from television. This is a scientific dictatorship, which Bertrand Russell said and the Huxleys said, both Aldous and Julian Huxley said, they would bring in the scientifically controlled society.
We are in process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy, who have always existed and presumably always will exist, to get people actually to love their servitude. This is seems to me the ultimate in malevolent revolution, shall we say. And this is a problem which has interested me for many years, and about which I wrote 30 years ago a fable, The Brave New World, which is essentially the account of a society making use of all the devices at that time available, and some of the devices which I imagined to be possible, making use of them in order to, first of all, to standardize the population, to iron out inconvenient human differences, to create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific caste system. A number of techniques about which I talked seem to be here already, and that there seems to be a general movement in the direction of this kind of ultimate revolution, this method of control by which people can be made to enjoy a state of affairs which, by any decent standard, they ought not to enjoy. I mean, the enjoyment of servitude.